Hello. Welcome to the Make It While You Fake It podcast. A podcast about running a custom furniture and woodworking business while also trying to start a community makerspace outside of Philly. All without having any formal education in woodworking or in business. I'm Dan Scriven from Wo Shop Woodworking and MontCo Makers, and I'm glad that you're here with us. Sweet. Welcome back to the Make It While You Fake It podcast. It's been a while. I think this has probably been the longest break I've had. I haven't done this in probably about a month because we've had lots of stuff going on. But we have a really awesome guest, a local Philly guy tonight, and all things being the way they are, Eagles are playing behind me, so that's pretty sweet. To kind of be distracted by that for the most time, but. Founder of the Philadelphia Table Company and the newest venture, which is an offshoot of that to help everybody else out, which is awesome. The Handcrafted Success, and we're going to get into all that. The one and only Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I mean, why don't we just get right into it? I love talking to local Philly guys because I don't get to interview a lot of other Philly guys, really. A lot of my buddies from Maker Camp are all up in Boston or New York or wherever. So this is pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm actually from MontCo area too. I know you're trying to set something up in Horsham, right?
Yeah, the Hatboro Horsham area. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up right down the street from Hatboro Horsham. Actually, I went to North Penn High School, but nice. I could have rode my bike to Hatboro Horsham. I lived off of what the heck was that? Horsham Road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pick it up, Horsham and Keenis. So right where the soccer fields are there.
Oh yeah. Very familiar. Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool.
Yeah. So I'm pretty local to the area.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, rad to also connect with you. It's cool. I think that's one of the coolest things about social media. Is social media gets a bad rap because we're all glued to our phones and stuff, and do it looking at stupid crap like people dancing in kitchens, which is still kind of rad.
It blows my mind that takes off though. But
yeah, but the other side of it, and I always talk about this too, and my woodworking group is using social for social. I think we forget that that's actually what it's for.
Right.
It's connecting with people. So it was cool connecting with you there. Otherwise, I don't think we would have ever connected.
No, and I mean, and it's funny. So having the shop that I have now, it's really just a single room in an old factory, and for the time being, we're losing our shop. That's a whole other story. But for now, where we're at, we're across the street from Hatboro Lumber, and they don't really do a lot of services. They don't have live edge stuff. It's just it's a construction contractor type of lot. And so they refer a lot of business stuff. So I get 3 or 4 cold calls a week. They're just like, hey, it was Hatboro Lumber. They said you could do this thing for me. I need a countertop with a sink cut out or something simple. I need a couple live edge slabs for some shelves, whatever. I heard you at a lumberyard. So that kind of stuff's really cool. But it really shows me just how many people are into woodworking just for themselves. There are a lot of people that catch the bug because they're either bored or they want to make their own furniture or, whatever the case may be. And we have a lot of walk-ins that if I happen to be there all day on a Saturday or Sunday, there are a handful of people that just walk in with some material or whatever. I just need this cut. I don't have saws of my own. Which the more that happened triggered the idea that I really wanted to open a makerspace where these people can kind of live out of and all get together, which really drew me to the school and the stuff that you're doing with the Handcrafted Success. And I have to say, I guess it's probably just you, but if it's not just you, whoever's doing your marketing for that is doing an excellent job because it is an ad on Instagram and Facebook almost every 15 minutes. I see it scroll by. It's pretty awesome.
So it's partially me. I did bring somebody on to help with it. So yeah, I mean, I taught myself how to do a lot of like the meta ads and stuff. And it's kind of like the only way to really like get people aware about
Right,
it,
right,
you
right,
know?
right. Yeah.
But I also like super precision laser focused. So like the fact that you're seeing it means I'm like hitting the right people, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
it's like hitting things like people who like Festool, people who like woodcraft, people who
Right.
shop at Rockler. Like I just like listed like all of like super hyper focused niche. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so like in reality, it's probably the same 1,000 people just seeing
Right. Yeah, yeah,
over
yeah.
and over
Yeah,
again.
but eventually we're
Um,
gonna click.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's been awesome. I mean, creating that community has been really cool. It's something I've kind of wanted to do for a long time. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so you got started what in 2014 just making stuff for your own house? Would you have just like a home shop at that point?
Yeah, so I started in 2014 making stuff for my own. I lived in Philly at the time, making stuff for my apartment. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we were just like we were trying to like furnish the house. And I remember we were like shopping for furniture. And like this is like when like the barn stuff was like super popular,
Oh yeah, yeah.
2014. And I was like, I'm pretty sure like I can like make this, I think. Just
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
mean, like I grew up handy. Like you know, my grandfather's a carpenter. My dad, like anytime I had to do anything around the house, like my dad did his own additions, finished basements,
Oh,
like
that's cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
my uncle's an electrician, my one buddy's like a plumber. So like I've just kind of always been around like
Oh,
handy stuff.
yeah. You're born from trades. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like bored. I was like, and you know, as a kid, my dad always had a workshop in the garage, and I was just like building random stuff. Like, you know, me and my brother built this thing called the summer sled, where we put like rollerblade wheels on the bottom of a sled, and we'd like shove it down a hill.
That's awesome.
But like everything was like, and all my school projects were made out of wood. Like it would be like you have to like make a game, and then me and my dad would be like in the basement, like making some like turning some
Yeah,
like
yeah.
wood piece. But yeah, so 2014, I started making stuff for like my apartment. I was in a touring rock band at the time too. We were signed to RCA, so
Nice.
we were doing it very real. We were, you know, doing tours out on the road, you know, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, doing recording in LA and all that stuff. So
Nice.
we got a record deal, we got a publishing deal, and so like that gives you some money, but it doesn't give you like enough to live, really.
Yeah. Right,
And
right, right.
we were getting per diems from the label, which was nice. But at the same time, it was like I was living with my wife, you know, who was my girlfriend, and like I was like, I can't look like a bum. Like I have to figure out how to pay this. I have to figure out how to pay this rent, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
well, I started making stuff for my place, and then she was the one who was like, "Hey, you should open." I didn't even really know what Etsy was. She's like, "You should just start an Etsy shop." And I was like, "All right, sure, we'll see what
Yeah,
happens."
right, right.
So I started an Etsy shop, and like pretty immediately I started getting sales. And you know, I remember pretty vividly one time I got a sale. We were like about to start a 12-week tour. I was in San Francisco. Like we
Hmm.
just got off stage. I checked my phone. I was like, oh crap, I got an Etsy order. I'm not gonna be home for 12 weeks. What the heck am I gonna do here? So I actually called my dad and talked to my dad through how to build something for me.
That's awesome. So
Um,
it wasn't just a cutting board for
no,
Etsy?
it wasn't. No, it wasn't just a
Oh,
cutting board.
jeez.
It was like it was like a liquor cabinet. It was like pretty intense. A pretty intense build actually. But yeah, so from the jump, I like kind of learned I had to hire people. So that's kind of like right from the jump, I had to like realize, hey, this is like a company that's going to require more than just my work.
Right, right.
So yeah, so I was building stuff I would commute from South Philly to my parents' garage, build stuff there. My mom always loved it because she would make me dinner and stuff and had an excuse to
Nice.
see me. So I'd go there like twice a week. The other days I was usually doing band stuff or like recording or something. And then eventually it got to a point where it's like I had enough clients to rent a space in South Philly. And for me, it's like, you know, it sounds kind of woo woo, but I always kind of believe in like manifesting and putting stuff out there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was just talking to my wife and I was just like, I just like want a place I could just like bike to that's like next to a coffee shop that's like, you know, just like a cool vibe. And like, and for, I think I said throughout a random number, I think I said like $500 a month. I was like, and
Yeah, yeah.
literally the next day, without a joke, I found a garage right next to a coffee shop, $500 a month. And that's like where I started cranking furniture out of. And it was small. I mean, it was a single 1-car garage, no
Right.
bathroom.
Yep.
So thank God we were next to the coffee shop. We would go walk to go to get coffee and then get coffee and then use the
Right.
bathroom.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And like that was in South Philly on Emily Street, which was a pretty rad spot. But we pretty quickly grew out of that. I think we were there. I was maybe there only for about a year. And I say we, because that's like when I started having like kind of 1099 employees, like part-time guys helping out. My
Nice.
brother was one of them. And then eventually I was like, I got to move out of this spot. Like I'm already like outgrowing it. So I eventually found another spot in South Philly that was at 5th and Reed. That spot was about 800 square feet. And then we ended up getting kicked out of there because my landlord was actually a subletting it to me. I didn't realize this.
Yeah.
And he told me it was zoned. He told me it was zoned properly. And we had one of those like DeWalt planers. And if you've ever used one of those, they are so
they're loud as hell.
They're so loud. And I felt so bad. The lady next door was retired. She was always complaining. And I was just like, I could not find hours to do it that wouldn't bother her. She was always complaining. So she started filing complaints to the city. And I was like, this is zoned properly, I think.
Right.
And then I would go to the guy that I thought was my landlord, be like, Yanni, this is zoned right correctly. He goes, yeah, it's zoned for mattress, whatever. And I was like, mattress, whatever. What does that mean? Like storage, manufacturing,
retail.
yeah. Like it was to a point where like some of my guys were getting in arguments with the neighbors, and I was like, man, I got to get out of here. So I was playing in a South Philly dart league, and I ended up getting connected to a guy who owned. He had a warehouse in Jersey, so it's like 10 minutes across, right over the Walt Whitman Bridge in Gloucester City. So it's like a 15-minute drive, and like he actually told one of my employees first, and he was like, yeah, we don't want that, because he didn't feel like driving to Jersey. And then I found out, I was like, dude, why didn't you tell me about this place? This place is amazing. So now we moved into this big warehouse that we're still currently in. Nice. My landlord was great. He sold me the building just this past year. And it's been great ever since. We're kind of starting to outgrow it there too. But since I own the building, I could probably start adding some more stuff to it. But it just costs a little bit, but we're efficient. We're a mighty shop. We're a team of 10 now.
Nice.
Actually 11. I don't know. We fluctuate between 10 and 12 at any given time, between like some part-time guys, and we have some guys that work summers or college, like delivery guys and stuff. So
and it looks like you have like furniture installer, which is actually like super hand. Like that's awesome to have in house instead of just kind of having these loosey goosey contractor. They're like, when I need you, can you be there? Unless they're busy. And I say guys loosely, guys and gals. So it's like a collective of makers. So the furniture installers are people who are delivering this stuff. So we try to do white glove delivery as much as we can. We'll go up to about 3 hours. Sometimes we'll go a little further. I think we have something going up to Massachusetts that we're going to do. It's just going to be an overnight trip. Which just gets a little complicated. Because usually otherwise we'll hire white glove services or we'll do shipping. I mean, we have stuff going all over the country. Nice. That's cool.
So, California, Florida, we have something going out to Big Sky. We have something going to Jackson and, kind of all over the place, Texas. So those we have white glove delivery companies, but if we're able to do the delivery, I prefer to do that just because it's
absolutely. Yeah.
It's a touch point that the client doesn't, get, you get to like meet someone from the team. I don't know.
They learn. And that's the thing. That's the whole, like, especially if they're getting a custom table, it's something to be like, all right, I ordered this thing and then it just showed up. I mean, everyone has that every day, just desensitized to how ridiculous that is with Amazon. And then, having something where somebody's pulling up in a delivery truck for their company that they bought, or they had to rent a U-Haul like I do most of the time. It's just like, no, this is like as down to earth as it gets. You wanted this. I built this with my own hands. I delivered it myself. I brought it into your house because I wanted to see what it looked like in your house. Because pictures were only going to do it justice to a certain degree. I want to see it. I want you to sit down and start like touching the table and be like, this is awesome. That can't be beat. It doesn't matter how big you get.
I mean, like bringing it in people's homes and like actually giving them something is different. And like, I think, and I tell everybody in my working group too, where it's like, what we're doing is a luxury service. So many people like
Yeah.
are trying to compare themselves to other like even big box stores. Like, I mean, even when I started, like I was like,
Yeah.
I just want to be as good as Crate and Barrel. I just want to be as good as Restoration Hardware. And I was like, honestly, that's bullshit. From day one, you're better than those
Yeah.
companies because you're making
Absolutely.
it by hand and you're like
Yep.
delivering something. And
Yep.
I see time and time again people devaluing themselves in what they're actually doing. And
Yeah.
so much of that to me is like just talking about the value aspect with a client as opposed to talking like what the dollar value is.
Right.
So
Right.
to me, it's like, you know, we are in this like unique position where we're making like pieces of art that go in people's homes that are going to be there forever. You know, it's
Yeah.
pretty, it's rad. And in a way, it's also very Buddhist. I was talking to my team about this today, where I was like, you're spending countless hours on this thing. We get like some pictures in the shop, we get some pictures in their house, but then it's just like,
Then it's
goodbye.
gone. Yeah. Then it's gone. Yep.
Then it's
Yep.
gone. You may,
Yeah.
if you're lucky, you won't see it again. If you're unlucky, you
Right.
have to see it again and do something to it or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. 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 It's also really satisfying. I just had this recently where, um, it you just connecting with people and just talking to them during the delivery. I've made so many connections of people who can help each other out with various things. So I just did a live edge bar top, like a 12-foot bar top, and just working with them. You know, if they were to go try, first off, if they're going to go try to buy a 12-foot bar top anywhere, I mean,
good luck.
that's not a thing that you just go buy on, largebartops.com. Like you don't really do that. But then, having to work with them, be like, how is this getting into your basement? Am I going to, build this in 2 sections and join it at your place? Or are we going to have help? Like working all those details out. It's so much more satisfying than just an order coming in online. All right, fine. It's just like a cookie cutter. All right, they want a 4x6 table, and then we ship it off, and then and it's done. I like having to kind of problem solve with clients for some reason that like really gets me excited. So we had to bring this thing. They didn't have Bilco doors, so we had to figure out a way of making it so that on the diagonal it'll fit through this little window, and we'd have someone down in this little like rain pit to try to like feed it through the window and get it down there. What's funny is that on that one, there were a couple bubbles that popped in the epoxy, and I was really, really pissed. It happened like at the last second before it cured. And so there was no getting around it. And I told them about it ahead of time. And I'm like, there are a couple bubbles that really bother me. I think I'm going to try to fix them on site. And they said, that's fine. So we bring it, we get it down there. They don't really care that much. They're like, it'll be fine. But I knew they were putting lights right above it, and they were going to see it so much. So I do it, and then I got the call like a week later. I'm like, here it goes. And they're like, we put the lights on, and the patch that you put in on site, it literally just looks like paint strokes. Like in the glare, you could see that it did not sit well. I'm like, all right, so I have to recoat the whole thing, but I got to sand down those spots. So when I go back, I realize that this is like the last piece in this entire full basement renovation, where they did this whole themed out thing. Everything was black and gray and gold, and it was like this really, really cool bar. They had a pool table and a shuffleboard. They had this whole thing. And as I'm talking to them, I'm recoating the whole thing. And it's great because, first off, you never have like, Restoration Hardware come and fix a ding in their table. That's not real. I go down and I fix. I'm like, as I'm looking at her, I'm asking her. I was like, if I miss a spot, tell me. Like, we're both looking at it. We're really happy with it in the end. And then I get talking to her, and she's like, oh yeah, we own a rigging company. I'm like, I need a rigging company. I need a rigging company like next month. And I've been really hard pressed to find one that works. Having all those little connections that you don't realize that you're going to have, with interacting with clients directly it's so incredibly satisfying in every way. And I am of the same mindset where, I said, to get this makerspace open, I feel like I need a block of time where I'm not doing commissions, but I say yes to so many commissions and I'm always booked. So I'm like, when am I going to find the time to like really finish out all the financial projections and work with my score mentor to get this thing off the ground and really get it working? And I put it out there. I'm like, I really think I need to take some time in between. The next day, same thing. The next day, we got a message from our landlord that they had rezoned our building and we had to get out. So we had to vacate. So I'm like, I guess I got my answer. I
Yeah.
am now going to have a block of time between opening to get this done the right way. Putting those things out to the world is way more powerful than people think, especially when you actually truly believe it's going to do something. Just like when you were saying, I just need $500 in a space nearby. It happens if you will it to happen and you actually want it to happen and it's right for you. It's pretty crazy how many times that works.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely a balance, right? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
you can't just like sit, on your couch and be like,
Right,
I'm
right.
willing $1 million to me, right?
Sure.
Like you need to take advantage of like the opportunities that present themselves, right? Or
Yep.
you need to know, and like sometimes I feel like even just stating what you need is really what opens up your mindset to basically see the solution,
Yes.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
like,
sure.
famous scientists talk about all the time. I think Einstein is even like, hey, you can't solve the problem to something that you don't know the question, right? So
Right.
it's like, once you put something out there, it makes it a lot easier to find that solution. And like when the right opportunity presents itself, you go, oh wow, this is actually exactly what I was asking for because I plotted out exactly what I needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Did you ever consider looking at Makerspace? I guess 2014. I'm trying to think if there were,
well, so I did. I looked at so Next Fab was in Philly at the time.
they were already established. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, so Next Fab was there. I didn't love the shared space
Yeah.
concept because I knew
Yeah.
like I was already being commissioned to make tables and stuff. And like
It's hard to make tables there.
and I
There's
also
not a lot of room.
and I'm also of the mindset too where it's like, I feel like so many people get so in over their skis as far as like, oh, I need this machine, you need this machine, you need this machine. I literally, honestly, like, I've been doing the company since, like you said, 2014. I just bought a new a cabinet saw. Before that, I was using a DeWalt contractor saw until
Right.
about 2 years ago.
That's
I
awesome.
swear to God,
Yeah.
it was the DeWalt one with the wheels on it.
Uh-huh.
Because the rest of my team, and I was like, guys, this works. Like
Yeah.
that and a
Right.
track saw, it's fine, or a chop saw. So for me, I was never like, oh, I need the fancy this, I need the fancy that. The one thing that really changed things was a wide belt sander, obviously, because that's like,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
time. But like for me, I've always been like really cautious about like it's so easy because it's marketing, right? Like you need the
Yes.
new Festool this, you need the new Festool that, and like you need the woodpecker this, and it's like you really don't like all those
Yeah.
things are like marketing being sold to you. And like I'm
Yep.
telling my team all the time too, like, hey, we need a new whatever. I'm like, give me the equation, tell me how this is going to save money,
Right.
tell me how
Right.
this is at the end of the day going to make your job faster, your job easier, safer, and like fix the
Yes.
bottom line. If you can't
Right.
present this argument to me, then why
Right.
are we doing this?
If the answer is I don't want to take the time to do it that way, I'd rather do it this way. It's like, well, that's really an opinion.
Yeah,
That's just you.
yeah, for sure. So
You know.
for me, I didn't feel the need to go into NextFab necessarily. Actually, I tried to sign up for NextFab as a business owner,
Oh,
and
okay.
like send my team there, and like try to do classes. Because I was like, oh well, you know what? It would be great to learn how to weld or how to use a
Sure.
CNC and all that stuff. But they wouldn't sell me like a business like package. Like I was just
Oh,
like,
okay.
can I just pay whatever per month to be able to send my team there?
Right.
They don't need orientation. They already know how to like build stuff, just
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
sign up for different classes or like if we need to use, a certain machine or whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah. No,
never
that's tough.
worked out. But I
Yeah,
mean,
that's tough.
I could definitely see it as like a hobbyist thing. I mean, I've always thought
Sure.
about that. Because
Yeah.
it's like a lot of people don't have the space or like the tools or even like the knowledge of what to get. So
Right.
to me, it's like it makes a ton of sense for anybody else to join
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Especially for hobby. And that's the thing, because even if you're at, a hobbyist level, if you're just getting into it, even just getting into it, you can do the thing where learn how to use a planer to be a planer and a joiner. And you
Mhm.
can do, the DeWalt contractor table saw. You can do a lot of stuff with that. I found that a lot of people do get overwhelmed with where to start. A lot of questions are like, what first tool do I get? It's like, well, are you buying milled lumber or not?
Yeah.
Um, there are so many different ways to get started, and it's hard for people to actually go ahead and do it. The thing that's around this area now is the amount of apartments, and I don't know if you've been to Montgomery
Yeah.
County recently, but
Yeah, my
man,
parents still live there. Yeah, it's crazy.
my God, the amount of condos and apartments and everything going up in downtown Hatboro. They're putting up massive apartment buildings where there used to be buildings. They just did away with the entire rule that you couldn't be above whatever 50 feet, and they're like, build whatever you want now. And so now things are now like going up, like 4 or 5 story apartment buildings with 80 units in them. None of those people have garages or basements or anything to build anything at all. So I'm trying to see, get into those communities now before we open to start getting, people kind of excited about it and get them out of their place. Good.
I would say I was also very fortunate in the fact that my dad had an entire
that's pretty cool
shop in his garage.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I mean, they were all like old Craftsman tools and like kind of sucked, but I mean, like it did the job, So like I had enough. Yeah. Like I had like enough tools to like do stuff.
Yeah.
There, and then I kind of learned, hey, these are the tools I need to like really do this properly, and then that's when I was able to like move to the next space, and that's why I was like, okay, when I move into this space, this is like kind of like what I need. And actually, one of my dad's like friends, for a wedding gift, gave me a table saw.
Nice.
But it was like dude. When I say the DeWalt contractor saw was better than this, like. Like he thought it was like his prized possession. He like bought it or whatever. Yeah. And then like my wife, of course, was like, "Cool, I'm so glad we got a table saw from Dean for our wedding gift."
Yeah, right. What am I gonna do with that?
I'm gonna make you lots of money, is what I'm gonna do.
Right. And even better, he's gonna give us 2 radial arm saws and and an old corded botch drill. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I was fortunate to have a lot of that stuff going, and like
that's cool,
and like learned how to use all those tools and stuff from an early age. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that the thing that I'm going to be trying to, it's not like I'm going to be all that different. A makerspace, but I think what I'm doing differently than like a Next Fab is I'm trying to focus on things that are made with your hands, things that are not. Like a lot of the makerspaces have a lot of whole 3D printing labs, and they have electronics and robotics and all that kind of stuff. And that's all cool and it has its place. I'm just not interested in that. Not even really interested in running a place that has that, to be honest. I think the most electronic stuff we'd have is a laser engraver and a CNC. And a lot of that stuff is really just to make commissions go easier. I get a lot of just, I need slab surfaced. It's like, well, that's an easy, extra scratch type of a commission job that I could turn on when I'm doing other stuff, which is fine. But yeah, I went down that route of, I talked it through with other guys that are going to be involved with this on what are the tools that we need for the makerspace? What are the needs, the wants, and what is the quality? Like, where's the line for stuff? Because a makerspace is going to be filled with a lot of inexperienced people, a lot of experienced people, but also a lot of beginners. And so for things like, I'm not a huge fan of saw stops. I had one for years, and they're a lot of money, and they do that one thing really, really well of saving fingers. Outside of that, I just don't like the saw that much. But it's like at a place like this, you kind of need it because you have a lot of beginners. You definitely need it. You have beginners. It's just it makes sense. Maybe you don't have to have every table saw be a saw stop, and and that's fine. But the people that are a little bit hesitant and learning, and they don't know that if you hear binding and you feel binding, just freeze and hit the stop. Don't move. Just let it go. Yeah. People who aren't comfortable doing that, maybe that's a necessity. But all the other things, I went from, all right, what would it cost to fully outfit it? Just go to Grizzly's website and just put everything that I could want and put it in a cart and see how much it was. I was like, there's no way on earth I'm buying things new. There's no way. It just can't happen. So I started scouring for used, workshops that were closing down and cabinet places that were closing down.
there's a lot closing down lately. It's
Yeah,
been
there are.
there's a lot that's been I guess like going to outsource. There's a lot of like older dudes who are retiring.
Hmm.
There's been a lot because I follow like all the biz buy sell
Yeah,
websites too.
yeah,
There's just been a ton, like a ton of. I mean, it's a tough business. I mean, you're
yeah,
in it.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's really hard. You need to like really understand. Like you need to have a pretty good business acumen to know, hey, am I making money that's going to help me sustain?
Right,
And how do you find clients? So there's a lot of guys who were older and don't know how to find clients in like the modern
right,
way.
right, right.
Like a lot of those shops are closing down. So
Well, I mean, and that's what kind of kicked off your new venture into expanding
yeah,
this, which is awesome, by the way, because it's funny. It's one of those things where, it's kind of like I know a lot of these people are probably going to. I mean, maybe they aren't local, but you would think they would start out where a lot of people are local, and you're almost like helping competition, but you're really
yeah.
not because this community is really not about that. Which is
No,
there are a lot of us, and if I don't want to take a commission, I have a list of 12 guys that I can give it off to.
there's plenty of work to go around. I really believe in like that abundance mindset.
Absolutely. Yep.
And for me, so it's actually the group is not local, which is actually really
Oh,
cool.
that's cool.
There's only a few. I don't even think there's another Philly guy in there.
Wow.
One other guy, Lucky Nelson's Lumber. He's like
Oh,
probably the
yeah,
closest.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, no, I worked with him a million times. I had him mill before we had our own mill. I had him mill a lot of
yeah,
logs for me. Yeah,
Jeff.
Jeff Weldon's a good guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Jeff Brad. So he's in the group. So it's actually he's I think probably the closest. A few guys like in Harrisburg. But otherwise it's national. But yeah, I mean I'm a big believer. It's like by helping each other, we're actually only going to make it better for everybody.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
then, like, if people know how to price it properly, you're not going to be like the low ball guy that then
Right,
ruins it
right.
for everybody else. And
Yeah,
then the vice versa, right? Like, you're not going to be like the super high expensive guy
yeah,
that's not getting any work. So like, it's evening that out, and then also like just kind of like I don't know. I just believe helping everybody through it. And like one
absolutely.
of the things that really led me to do it was there are other groups like this out there, and I was just so frustrated to see like influencers doing this. Like
Yeah,
it was so like offering, I'll do I'll help you do like your Facebook ads or like, like running podcasts and stuff. And I'm like, dude, like half the time these people don't even know what it's like to run a company. So for me, I
right,
was like,
right.
I need to like kind of step it because I was just getting frustrated at the information I was seeing out there
Yep.
that was like incorrect or unhelpful. So I was like, look, I'm
Yeah,
actually running a business. I have a genuine desire and want to like teach. I love teaching. I've always loved
yeah,
teaching.
yeah.
And yeah, so I figured I'd make the group. And the other thing too is it's just about connection and collaborating. I feel like
Absolutely.
the old guard is like very protected about like how they, bill things or all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
So for me, I wanted to just basically like let's just blow the doors open and let's just share all the information we
yeah,
possibly can.
yeah. Because no, absolutely. I'm totally in the same vein. I started a Facebook group. I want to say 8 years ago, like
Yeah,
just
you're the
work,
Philly. It's the Philly
wood,
woodworking one, right?
yeah, woodworkers of Bucks, Montgomery County or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I started that whenever that was 8 years ago, literally just to have people talk and shoot the shit, and
yeah,
it's been great. I've met a lot of people through that. I've met
yeah,
a lot of people who during the time maybe 3 years ago where I was milling every weekend just to
yeah,
like build up my whole lumber yard. People just I would just throw a message on there and you have 4 or 5 guys just show up to like help stack lumber because they've never seen a portable mill before and it was just cool to
yeah,
see it.
yeah,
I
for
sent them
sure.
home with a couple slabs each, and then like everybody was happy.
Yeah,
It was awesome. Like all that community is like the driving force for opening a makerspace because I know that people just want a place to go to do this kind of stuff, and
yeah,
just you do a glow up, and then you have a lounge with some coffee, and you just hang out. You just watch other people doing stuff. You're learning new techniques. You're talking about what they're doing. I mean, it's a game changer for someone who wants to get started and really has absolutely no idea and they're just relying
yeah.
on YouTube.
Well, yeah, and the other thing too, like you said, I think you can learn from other people there, which to me is like maybe probably the most valuable thing you probably could
Yeah.
do.
Yep.
Is like be surrounded by other people who are doing it.
Yep.
Because like, I mean, I know that, you know, as my company got better where we had more people to be able to like bounce ideas off of and talk
Right.
things through.
Yeah.
And there's like a few guys in the group that belong to like different maker spaces. And they're like, I've learned so much from, you know, this old guy who comes in and,
Yeah.
you know, he's retired and comes in and works and shows me how to do certain things and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's all about like sharing knowledge. I think it's so stupid
Yeah.
for anyone to think that this should be just preserved.
Right, exactly. And I mean, like you said, there's plenty to go around. There's plenty to go around at every level. I mean, there are
Yeah.
people that are happy with whatever you make them. And then there are,
Yeah.
you know, the New Hope clientele who they just want really top of the line stuff. I mean, there's a whole
Yeah.
range of people. You know, some of this stuff is not only for just uber rich people. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
So there are clients for everybody.
Yep.
Well, what is the name? Like promote your handcrafted success a little bit.
So it's called Handcrafted Success. I created it using a new web service called School, SKOOL. And so we have a community message board, so kind of like a Facebook group, but sort of the added perks are I made a bunch of modules in there that are like talking through, you know, different business things. And, you know, just rewind a little bit, the whole group is very business focused, because to me, it's like, a lot of people already know how to build stuff. Almost everybody who comes in the group is like, look, I already know how to build stuff. There are questions there. Hey, what kind of finish would you use on this? Or like, how would you assemble this? So there are those kind of questions, but I come at it from a very business minded perspective.
Sure.
So there's the community group. So you can kind of like write message board. We do group calls twice a month, which is super rad. That's a great place we kind of do it mastermind style. So you can ask questions and the group will answer, or like I'll chime in. And then otherwise, I'll prepare kind of like a webinar or something. Like it might be like, I see a bunch of people talking about business insurance. Let me talk about that. Or a bunch of people are talking about shipping. I'll talk about that, or how to get new clients, or how to work with interior designers, or how to get commercial gigs, like all that sort of stuff. And then the third prong is modules. So I made like a bunch of videos that talk through sales process, talk through, you know, setting up systems and processes. I'm a big systems and processes guy. Talking through, like, I'll show you like how I run my Google ads, how I run my Facebook ads, different SEO stuff, kind of a mixed bag of everything. And then the modules I'll like update. They're like kind of like live updates. So I have them there, but like again, if I see a big conversation going deep about something that I didn't do a module on, I'll do like a module, or I'll go deeper on it.
That's cool. No, that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's super rad. And like, you know, there is a fee for it. And like the main reason, you know, after we were talking about sharing as much as we can, like the main fee for me is just so people show up and take it seriously.
Right.
And present in a way that like makes themselves show up, and like hold themselves accountable is the main reason. And the second thing too is it's like I'm running a business, so I need to get compensated for some of the time that I'm getting pulled away from it. But yeah, I mean, I had been doing like, and it stemmed a little bit too, because I'd always just done like private coaching conversations with people.
Right.
A lot of people are like, hey, how do you set up this? And it was like very small business oriented stuff. It wasn't like specifically woodworking. So then I started pivoting more towards the woodworking stuff. And I was like, I think this makes sense to be as like a group. And I myself am actually like a big believer in hiring coaches and mentors and being part of masterminds. So I've been parts of those like for a very long time. And to me, I didn't see anything that was very like, not necessarily woodworking, but like maker based. Cause like you're on a lot of those calls and like, you'll be on like in a mastermind and some guys like talking about an e-commerce sneaker store. Custom like furniture and like things that you make don't align with like e-commerce sneakers, right? You can't just run a bunch of Facebook ads and hope people buy it. I mean, you can, but that's not really kind of like what we're going for, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Especially with my business. I mean, my business is very bespoke. It's kind of everything's like one of one.
Right.
There isn't really like copy paste going on.
So. No, that's very true. And I mean, I went through in trying to get this makerspace off the ground. Part of my whole shtick is that I never took a business class. Well, I never took a woodworking class, let alone a business class. So I took the Wharton online entrepreneurship course,
Oh, cool.
and it was really cool. It was a 3 month long thing where they had assignments and a whole video lecture series every week.
Awesome.
And they had live like office hours where you can jump on a Zoom call every week and just meet the professors. It was a bit outdated. It seemed like it was around 2014 when a lot of the videos were made, and they're very old. They were very old school type of videos, which are fine.
Yeah.
A lot of them were, shirt and ties in a library type of scenarios.
Yeah.
But the majority of it, while it was very good to hear, business formation and how to choose your team and structure your business and do all that kind of stuff. It did tend to have that same issue where it would kind of start going down you're inventing a widget, and how do I get that widget to market, and then how do I improve on it and get feedback? I'm like, that's not really how this goes.
Fair. Yeah.
But I mean, I have to finish the course anyway, so I guess I'll just kind of play along. But yeah, having something this is a very different business, and I can see it when I know a lot of people who are first starting out, doing their first couple commissions, and it's not even a matter of them not making money, it's them losing all of their money in doing those first couple projects, just from not understanding where a lot of the cost comes from. And it's not just time. Like when you first get started, your time is worthless to you. And you're like, I don't care how long it takes me, because what else would I be doing? I might as well be doing this. But then, especially as you get a little older and you have a wife and kids and all this other kind of stuff. It's like, my time is actually pretty valuable. There's not a lot of it. So if I'm going to dedicate that time to, creating a rendering of a project and doing proposals, and then being in the shop and building it and delivering and taking the weekend that I would be with family and stuff to go rent a truck and drive it 2 hours and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I need to get paid for that to at least make the time worth it. And there's a very real cost to all those things.
For sure. One of my previous business mentors, actually, when I started working with her, we had a lot of conversations about just like running the business and the business in general. And the one thing that really stuck out for me was one of the calls we did. She was just like, what you need to understand is you're selling art. You're not selling other things, right? So for me, this selling art part of it really changed the way that I marketed and the way that I thought about how to sell these things, because inherently you have to sell. Like that's part of this. And I think everybody gets so scared of the word salesman or being like everyone thinks of like the slimy, like used car salesman. But when you're selling something you really believe in and like your heart is into it, you don't feel like a salesman. Like what you're selling is like passion, right? And people can tell that when you're like talking to them. Like you were saying before, you were like talking to somebody when you were like putting the finish on, because like you're there like appreciating it, and like people really see that. And I think when people see that and like that, it's a completely different game, but you do have to approach it from a sales mindset, because you have to make money, right? That's like the whole point of a business, unless you're doing it as a hobby, and that's great. Whatever.
Well, and that's the thing, because there's not a lot of things where someone says, I would like a dining table, and you're like, okay, this is going to be a long conversation. And they're like, I just wanted a dining table. It's like, no, there's a lot of questions. It's like what color would you like? let's start there.
I mean, there's like obvious ways to like streamline that, right? Because it's like as you scale and as you grow, I mean, like my company is big, we do a lot of sales, so it's like you have to find ways of kind of like focusing a little bit without trying to, and like I'm delicately walking the line between like, producing lots of the same thing and then like bespoke stuff. So I mean, like every project that comes through is made by one maker, top to bottom. Like it's like a collective of makers. Like it's not like we have a topped guy and then we have a finished person.
Oh, that's cool. That's actually pretty unique.
So it's actually something I've kind of called enlightened manufacturing. So it's something that's a little different than mass manufacturing. So it's like we're still able to crank stuff out, but the way we're doing it is like, it's like, hey, Zip, that's the name of our foreman. Zip, you're working on this project from top to bottom. Everything from milling the lumber to gluing it to sanding it to putting finish on it. You stamp the bottom, you sign it. That's your piece, and that goes out. So,
That's cool.
times 9 makers, you're working on 9 to 15 individual projects at any point within the shop. So each person is really getting assigned. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted a company that was very similar to the way it was when I first started, where I was like, hey, I want it to be made by a single person. I'm a big believer in kind of like the spirit and soul of the piece. Like if you're like the energy you're putting into it, like comes out and you feel it, there's like that little bit of X factor in there. And you end up with a better product too, because you're not going to stamp and sign something that's a piece of crap. And then when you're handing stuff off, you lose the value of it there, because there's no accountability. It's like, I'm just the leg guy. I don't know.
Yeah. You know what? And that's it. And I could truly respect that mindset, because I know several custom, furnishing people that that don't think that way, which everyone's business is a little different, so that's fine. But I've heard from several people where, if my company, and they use the word if my company is putting this stuff out there, then I have a set of quality standards that I need to set. And that's because I don't want something misrepresenting my company by either being lesser or being something a little different, or this didn't, get my stamp of approval type of thing. Yep. It's refreshing to see a company like that, where you have one builder doing top to bottom and you're still part of the same company, because that not only instills the confidence in that artist to build it, be like, I know you're going to make something really awesome. So that is great. By all means, go for it. But it's also a matter of, you as the owner who runs a thing, not having that ego to say like, no, this has to go through me first, because this is my baby. Each one of these is their babies. It's just kind of overseeing it, which is awesome. It's a really refreshing way of looking at it.
Well, I think like it's like this, right? Like, so it's like you're taking the entrepreneur class at Wharton, and I think so many people get set, and that's why I'm calling it like enlightened manufacturing, because so many people get set in certain ways of doing things. And I've always been like, well, why are we doing it that way? Right.
Yeah.
And like, of course, it's not the most efficient way. We know that. We admit that to our clients. We go, hey, we know this is the most efficient way. We know this isn't the most cost effective way. We might be an extra $1,000, we might be an extra $2,000, we might be an extra $3,000 more than the next company, but this is what you're getting instead. This is we're giving you, it might be $2,000 more money wise, but we're giving you 3-4 times the value of what any mass manufacturer is doing. Yep. So, I mean, it's definitely has to be a high-end luxury client who's willing to pay for that. But at the end of the day, it's like something I don't want to compromise on. I want my employees to be happy. I want them to feel like fulfilled every single day when they come in. I don't want them to hate where they're working. That's a big part of it too. And
I mean, honestly, and being that we're talking about woodworking, custom woodworking items, it's so many times you're cutting joinery and that maybe you cut that like a little loose, like it's just a touch loose. That when you do a glue up, you're gonna fix that. You're gonna do something a little different. That this had a little bit of a crack and you fix it in a certain way, so when you sand it and you put finish on it, that's gonna disappear. Having to communicate all those little nuanced things that when you've been building this whole thing, and just like, just send it off to the finisher. He'll do a great job. I'm sure he would, but there might be like a couple spots that you already know about. Like the grain changes over here and it's more open than the other side of the table. So we need to sand more on this side to get everything back down. Like there are just a lot of things that you get a real good benefit in a higher quality product having one person do the whole thing. It's really awesome.
And each individual mistake compounds, right? If you were to pass it down a line.
Absolutely. Yep.
So yeah. And then the other thing too, is it's like I'm a big believer in like building things with intention, like things that like need to mean something. So it's like, we're not overproducing. We're producing only the things that are designed and made and specifically going to somebody. So it's just, I don't know. It's just, I think a more holistic way of doing manufacturing. Yeah. We've all just been so caught up in this, Henry Ford model of, the assembly line. I say, fuck Henry Ford, fuck the assembly line.
Yeah, dude, honestly, I mean, it sounds like it's working out really, really well. I mean, you're pretty much a makerspace in your own right. At
Yeah, I
this
mean,
point, with a ton
everyone's
of companies.
yeah, I say we're like a collective. We're a collective of makers, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like things we definitely have like company structures and things like that's the only
sure,
way it works. Like we have to have, the designs are coming from like we have an in-house designer. I work with them and the in-house designer. So we're doing that stuff. We have quality checklists, so like nothing's going to leave the shop without a specific quality. Like we have certain
sure,
standards. Like if
sure.
you're going to sand walnut, this is what it's going to get sanded to. This is what it's going to finish
Yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all that stuff. So like we have that standardized stuff, but like I like to consider it kind of like a soccer field, right? As long as you're
Yeah,
like staying in bounds and
kind of
playing
in
by
your
the
lane.
rules,
Yeah,
you could do
right.
whatever you could play the
That's
game however
awesome.
you want. As long as you're not
That's
touching the
awesome.
ball, you can play soccer however you want to play it.
Well, your name's the Philadelphia Table Company, but you're doing way more than tables. I
Well, yeah, we
take it.
do. Yeah, so we do tables and then case goods. I describe it as like furniture in general.
Sure. Okay. Nice.
FF&E stuff. So for homeowners, for ease of them understanding, I say we do the things that you would hire a mover to move when you leave your house.
Oh, that's cool. No, that's a great way of putting it.
As time,
And that totally puts it in perspective.
yeah. And to me, I'm like, if you're investing all this, because we don't do built-ins, and like if you're investing all this money into something, it's like I want you to like take it with you
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Right. 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 Exactly. Yeah.
And we used to do built-ins, but they were a pain in the ass. So for me, I was like,
Yeah.
it's more cost effective. And that's the other thing too about doing it this way is like you really need to be dialed in on your numbers. You need to know what you're making on
Well,
every
right.
project.
Yeah.
You really need to like make sure you're pricing stuff properly.
A built-in could go from a 1 day install to a 4 day install very, very easily.
Very easily, and
With
it's all dependent upon how drunk your contractor was when you put that wall up, I guess.
right, exactly. Like you drill into the wrong spot and you hit a random wire. You're like, great. Okay,
Yep.
so this just turned into a big deal, and now we
Yeah.
have insurance, and now we have to talk to the
Yeah.
homeowner a whole bunch. It's no, it's a disaster. I did no, I don't do built-ins myself. I just I don't have that that contractor trade skill set really of
Yeah.
knowing all the tricks of how to scribe and score and make things really
Good.
perfect. I just do not have it, and I don't know when I'll get it. One day, if I do it myself in my own house, I'll figure it out. But I learned a while ago that I need an installer and a contractor to do that kind of stuff, and I have someone who's really, really good. We're not officially affiliated, but every time I have an install job, I call him, and
I mean, that's totally fine though. I know a lot of companies that do that. Like
Yep.
I know companies that do built-ins and they literally just build the boxes and say, here's all the trim work. Dude,
Pretty much.
go install
Yeah.
the job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
And it's funny because again, it's things that you learn when you're getting started. I started doing mantles, and everyone wanted the floating shelves and all that kind of stuff, which I personally I hate doing it. I hate doing floating shelves, especially floating shelves.
There's the hover bracket system.
I use hover brackets. Yep.
They made it a little easier, but it's still horrible.
It's still horrible. Just the time it takes to wrap it out the back and dado out the back and get them just right. And
I just tell
the amount of times that's what I mean. The amount of times you get there and then somebody's wall is curved out. You're like, now I have to shim on both sides. This is now again a 1 hour install just became an entire day.
Yep.
So I mean, I used to do all those installs, and now I just won't. And then someone did bring it to my attention again, learning from nothing, and then learning. Hopefully, I didn't learn these things the hard way, but they're like, "Do you have like insurance?" I was like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "What if you install a shelf in some kid's bedroom and they put books on it and it falls on them?" I was just like, "Well, I don't know." They're like, "That's a horrible answer." And those are the things that gets you really thinking. It's like, okay, so then I started getting the general liability insurance. And then I was like, you know what? Why am I installing this at all? I need somebody that actually knows what they're doing to do this.
Well, honestly, that's like the best cover up for somebody if you don't feel like doing a job. Like, I'll just be like, our insurance doesn't cover that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because it's like, like same thing for me. Like eventually at one point, like I was actually the guy that was my quote unquote landlord that I was subletting from because he was a contractor. He's like, "Hey, do you have insurance?" I was like, "No." He was like, "Dude, you need insurance. Call my guy." So I called him. And then there was at one point this documentary about IKEA,
Yeah.
where like the IKEA things were falling on people.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was literally on the couch at like 11 o'clock. I texted my insurance guy. I was like, yo, does my insurance cover this? And he goes, yeah, it does. I was like, oh, thank God. Cause
Yeah.
like I was like
Right.
having
Yeah.
panic attacks about
Uh-huh.
like
Oh my God.
everything I ever built. And then like
Yep.
somebody's suing me.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's petrifying because I built my kids like beds and all this other stuff. They're like
Yeah.
jumping on them. Like, all right. So every table that goes out of my shop, I stand on it first off. It's just it's my, before I put finish on it, before I've sanded it, I get on top and I like kind of, surfboard it and rack it and try to move because I'm like, you know what? I have 3 kids and I'm pretty sure at one point in my life, all 3 of them are going to be on the table jumping around. And, and it's funny because I've gotten pictures from clients with their kids on the tables jumping around. Like, God, thank God that I put my, I put my fat ass up there first. Yeah. But, all those things that you learn when you first start out. But I mean, obviously we haven't talked about this at all. This is the first time we're talking, but I kind of think that a course like that could be really cool in a makerspace where people are starting out with their businesses and they just don't know those types of things.
That was what I was actually kind of like hoping to do actually before I figured out the school thing. Was I was like, so I actually live in Bucks County. So I actually live not far from Bucks County Community College. So Bucks County Community College has a really great woodworking thing.
They do. Yeah. One of our guys is a turning instructor there. Yeah.
So like I always was like, oh, it'd be awesome to be an adjunct professor there that pairs with the woodworking that shows people how to start their businesses.
Absolutely.
So I was at some point I was like, oh, maybe I'll write a syllabus and like pitch it to them. But then I found this school thing, and that's been scratching the itch for me a little bit better. Plus,
that's cool.
I was a substitute teacher for a little while, and I hate dealing with administration, and I'm just like not great at that. I've always like kind of like
Well, the good part is that if you want to do any of these kind of courses at MontCo Makers, you're looking at the administration. That's pretty much me.
There you go. Yeah.
So it'll be a lot less bureaucratic.
When are you hoping to open it?
So it's a good question. I say it's early 2025, and I say that with more and more confidence the closer I get to it.
Sweet.
So I'm in the process now of raising funds. So I just submitted my business plan to the SBA's website.
Yeah, I was going to say SBA. Yeah.
So the SBA is now looking at it, and they're pretty much going to take people who are really interested in writing grants are going to reach out to become grant writers to try to get money and startup money to fund this. But also I have the loan application pretty much in flight with the bank to just have the initial startup loan and working capital loan.
You should pre-sell. I'm not trying to be a coach here.
But that's definitely what I'm going to be doing. Yep.
Yeah.
So I've laid the ground for at least the interest, because trying to find or trying to even get a market study done on something like this is just really complicated. Because they're like, so who's your market? I'm like,
dudes,
anyone that likes woodworking. They're like, that's not a market. I'm like, I don't know how else to describe it. But
the DIYers, like the do-it-yourselfers kind of people.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started doing a Horsham Farmers Market on Sundays. I just had a workbench there with a little desktop CNC and some stuff going on to get people to come and walk over, and have a couple hundred people every Sunday signing up for like, I'm really interested in this. Let me know where it's going to be.
That's amazing.
Like, to the county list and everything. And I understand that that's free. That's anyone will put their email address down, fine, walk away. But I've talked to every single person that wrote their name down, and they were all very excited.
Yeah.
Now those are all leads, so they all go into the system, and now it's a matter of, before I open, once I feel like the timing is going to be, once I secure the building and get the lease for the building, is when I start doing pre-sales for classes, pre-sales for specials as being a founding member. If you're one of the first members of the shop and you actually want to be a monthly member of the shop, as a founding member, you're going to be living through some growing pains as we get the thing going. Our tool layouts might change a couple times. We might be putting some walls up here and moving some stuff around. And if you're good with that, if you want half off for an entire year, or any kind of thing to get people in the door. I plan on having multiple
You have
members and classes sold out before we even open.
Do you have a space yet?
So I spoke to, so that I'm realizing is going to be harder than I thought. So I'm looking for 10 to 15,000 square feet. So it's a healthy spot. It's a healthy amount of space.
There's a few places right off of was that 611? I think there's like a few
I live on 611. There's so many. There are so many now.
So many things are open. There's that one actually that would be really rad right at the corner of Horsham and 611. That's like it was like a used foreign car lot.
So that's a little small, and that has no parking. It's funny. I live literally 2 blocks from there. So I live behind the Sonic.
Okay. Yes. So like all there, there's like a bunch of spots that are.
There's a lot of spots. So what's weird is getting enough room, and I don't have a long list of demands really for the space. It needs to have fire suppression because just the wood dust and all that kind of stuff. Fire suppression. The HVAC thing is going to be tough because a lot of this mixed use industrial type buildings don't have air conditioning at all. They might have heat, but none of them are going to have air conditioning. It's going to be rare. So I just looked at a spot that used to be a Habitat for Humanity restore that just closed.
Good size. That would be a good size, yeah.
So it was a good size. It ended up being way too much. That was 24,000 square feet. But they said even so, it was double the rent. I was like, okay, double the rent than I have budgeted for. I'm like, all right, that's no good. Then there's another building that they have listed on LoopNet, and it's a great site, 13,500 square feet. It has parking. It has fire suppression. It has a loading dock, has a little bit of office space. I'm like, this is perfect. And they listed it, but the landlord is in heavy negotiations with the current tenant. And they just want to lease the entire building. They don't want to lease just the one thing that they have listed. So when I spoke to a guy, he's like, it's going to be a challenge to find the amount of space you want, because a lot of them are 5,000-6,000 square feet or like 50. It's hard to get somewhere like kind of in the middle. But it's going to be in this area. It's going to be in the Hatboro, Horsham, Willow Grove, Warrington, somewhere like that. There are a lot of buildings. The problem that I also ran into was that I toured 4 or 5 of them about 6 months ago, and a realtor was walking me through them. And then I got to a point where he's like, so your finances are ready to go? And I'm like, not really, because I didn't know how much I was looking at. You know, I didn't even know how much to ask for yet. That's where I was. And he's like, so here's the thing. You got to stop looking now. Now you know how much things are. You got to get your money first, because a lot of these building owners are going to be the same owners, and they're just not even going to look at you anymore. So that was good advice. And he was very, it was very blunt. He's just like, now you know how much you need. You know how much space you're looking for. You know how much it is per square foot triple net. So now you know. So budget that in, go get the money, and then we'll talk. So it's one of those things where once the loan gets approved and they like the business plan and we're up and running, I feel like I'd be able to find a spot within a couple of weeks, to be honest, and then start to build out. And then it's a matter of you start to build out, and then you order all because I do need some machines. I ordered, I'm going to be ordering 7 lathes, a couple air cleaners. I need a big compressor, like some basic stuff. And then I spoke with Oneida to get a full dust collection system.
I say you need a big dust collection. You're also going to make sure you get that power going.
Yes. Yeah. So I have 3 electricians that I'm going to be able to use. We'll all see.
Make sure the service is fine. You don't have to upgrade the service, because that's mad expensive. I almost had to do it at my place. It's like 100 G's to upgrade your service.
It's unreal. And that's the thing. So one of the places I looked at, the place that was the restore, they didn't have 3-phase in there, but they had it in the building because of HVAC systems anyway. So you're like, well, can't you how much would it be just to run the line? They're like, it's a lot.
Well, at least it's in the building. Yeah.
At least it's in the building. I don't have to talk to Pico and do all that kind of stuff. But that's the thing. 3-phase is also a requirement. But that's the thing. A lot of our machines are 220. Some of them are single phase. Some of them are 3-phase. Yeah. We have a lot of 110 stuff. So there are going to be a lot of drops. The one electrician I spoke to, he's like, you can run all the wire up in the ceiling and have them ready to be drops, but it's just going to save you a ton in wire.
My uncle actually my uncle did the next fab one up in Fishtown.
Oh, did he really?
Or his company did that one. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
A crap ton of money. I think
I'm
that
sure
was
it was.
I don't even know how much the electric package was, but it was insane.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely going to be nuts. And that's going to be one of those things where you wire it for the machines you have to get open and get people in the door. And then as you build, you're like, all right, we're going to be
add more and more. Yeah.
We just keep adding more and more. And that's the thing. That was the hardest part, is getting the 12-month cash flow and projections set in stone, where, to the best of my knowledge, this is what I expect the demand to be. You know, because they're going to be like, well, how do you know that? And that's where a lot of the whole, you know, face-to-face grassroots type of marketing is where it's coming into play. It's like, I don't know, I have 1,000 signatures of all these people who are really interested, and they're all within a 2-mile radius. You know, it's got to mean something. So,
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so I mean, that's the thing. If the loan goes through, the loan's going to take, you know, probably 2-3 months to even get an answer. And I expect to be rejected in the first couple and get some feedback. But you know, if it goes through, because everything looks like it's good on paper as of now. I have a meeting with my mentor from SCORE in a couple of weeks to talk through some of the financials. If all goes well and I can get money by December, January, find a place, start the build out, I'd love to be open by March. I would love to be. Might be a little bit too pie in the sky, but that's kind of what I'm willing to work hard to do. So that's my goal anyway, is to be open by March.
Cool. Well, I'm cheering for you. It's rad. We need more makers. We need more makers in the world.
Dude, absolutely. And I mean, this is gonna be an awesome place. This is gonna be a place where people just go to hang out, whether they have to make something or not. Like, what are you doing? I'm not doing anything on Saturday. I'm just gonna go grab coffee and see what those guys are doing over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'd love to have you involved, you know, in any way, because it sounds like you really got a good thing going as well, and building that community too. And especially one of the things that I think is going to set us apart from some of the local places is having, because I know they do these kinds of things in some of the smaller you know, shops in Philly, but having, you know, guest instructors fly in and teach some of week-long classes would be kind of cool. Windsor chairs and stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That'd be a really cool course, because I know several people who are super Jones to come in and do that.
I've been tempted to do the Windsor chair one. There's one up in Maine.
Yes,
super sweet.
There's one up in Maine. There's what was it, Greg Pennington down in Nashville. Yeah. Some of those just look unbelievable. My other buddy wants to do a kayak course. I was like, how is that going to work? Are we going to have space for like 6 kayaks?
That's always been like my life goal, is to like do a boat. I live on the Delaware, so like at some point I'm gonna do a boat.
Absolutely, you have to. I mean, that's a rite of passage.
Nick Offerman style, yeah,
absolutely.
I think Nick Offerman made a canoe, so
he did. I saw it in Jimmy's house. It's unbelievable. It's just hanging It's just hanging over his dining room table. It's like, well, that's where that belongs. It's unbelievable. You walk in and there's literally just a canoe hanging upside down. But no, that'd be really cool. But yeah, that's the goal anyway. March, have it open and have people. You know, it'd be a really cool summer next summer if that's all I'm doing.
Yep, that'd be rad.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for coming on. So, you know, where can people find you? Instagram and SKOOL.com.
Yeah,
where are you on Instagram?
So Instagram is just / Philadelphia Table Company or / Handcrafted Success. And you know, you could Google my name. I'm sure you might see some old band stuff coming up.
Nice.
But yeah, kind of anywhere and everywhere. But yeah, so just Philadelphia Table Company, Handcrafted Success. Feel free to reach out and say, hey, I love connecting. That's been one of the coolest things about this so far. Dude,
that's awesome. And actually, before I forget, what did you play? You look like a bass player.
I was a bass player.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was a drummer in a rock band for years.
In Hatboro area?
No, in New York. I grew up in New York.
Cool.
Yeah, we got a contract when we were 16, and our parents told us to go away.
Cool. Yeah.
They're like, get out of here! What the hell are you doing? And then when we were 18, the same company came back, and then my guitar player's sister was a lawyer. She looked at it and she just started laughing. She goes, "There's no way you're signing this." I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
It was I played bass. I mean, I play a lot of stuff, but I played bass in the band.
Nice. I was drummer. Yeah.
It was rad.
No,
it was good.
That's
it was
awesome,
good time.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for hopping on, and I wish
Thanks
you
for
all the
having me,
best. And we'll definitely be in touch again.
Yeah, let's definitely keep in touch.
Yeah, man.
If
Awesome.
you ever want to stop by the shop too, let me know. If you want to make the
No,
trip to
I
Philly,
definitely do. Oh, I definitely
love
do.
to hear you
I
out.
pass by. I have in-laws in Cherry Hill, so we pass by there a lot. So,
Oh yeah, it's literally right. We're like 10 minutes from Cherry Hill.
oh, that's awesome. No, that's definitely gonna
Yeah,
happen. No, I'll hit you
cool.
up. Cool,
Word.
man. Awesome. Have a
All
good
right,
night.
dude. Enjoy the birds.
Yep. Go
All
Birds.
right, man.
Catch you later, man.